We've all seen the horror movies that come with a claim based on a true story. The line that sends shivers down your spine, transforming an imaginary scare into a real-life nightmare. The Amityville Horror Story is one of these movies, and it has been told a number of times. A tale of a house that looks almost as if it has eyes, as if it were preying on its next victims. A house that has a horror story painted into the walls and a morbid history that has fascinated many. Its story has been told a number of times through books, movies, and those who lived through it. But where does the truth lie? Today we're crossing the threshold and stepping through the door to explore what really happened to make this ordinary house infamous. Hello everyone, welcome back to episode 26 of Spooky and Kooky.
As always, if you're into anything horror, paranormal, conspiracy, then you're in the right place. We upload every other Thursday at 5 PM UK time. So if that sounds good to you, give us a subscribe so you don't miss any of our content.
And today we're going to be doing a classic horror film, which I did try to pay homage in my outfit today because I wanted to give a little nod to Chucky, another infamous horror.
Yeah, I see the Chucky vibes.
Yeah. Yeah, so hopefully that comes across.
Have you? We haven't even said the name of the film.
Oh no, we haven't.
Amityville Horror Story film. You would have known from the title of the video anyway. But have you seen the films?
Yes,
because there's two.
I haven't seen the second one, but they remade it, didn't they?
Yeah, that's what I'm on about. I know
a second one.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of the sequels because I think there's 4.
Oh damn.
But I just remember seeing that on Google, so maybe there's 4.
But yeah, I have seen
I've seen both the classic and the remake. I obviously think the remake's better.
Although they did do it kind of differently, didn't they?
Yeah.
The remake, but yeah.
I think when you reach a certain age, like a film reaches a certain age, once you've grown up with films with special effects in, you can't really go back to the classic horror films.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to be delving into the true story behind that.
I'm excited for this one. On a cold November night in 1974, 6 members of the DeFeo family were found murdered in their beds, shot one by one as they slept in their Dutch colonial home in Amityville, New York. Just over a year later, another family moved in. They lasted 28 days, fleeing their home in the dead of night. They claimed the house was alive, that something dark had awakened when the blood was spilled, that it was watching them, feeding on them. Green ooze dripping from the walls, invisible forces throwing furniture, a demonic pig staring from the window. Was it all a hoax? Or was it something far worse? This is the true story behind the Amityville Horror, including the infamous investigation by Ed and Lorraine Warren and the questions that still haunt skeptics today. Welcome to the house where terror has no expiration date.
Ooh. So the way we're going to do this is we've both done different sections and we're just going to go back to back, and then I think at the end it would be quite good if we give our thoughts on it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've got kind of from researching it, if you've kind of got an opinion on it.
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you were like, I don't know if you've got thoughts. Do you have any thoughts?
Anything going on up there? But no, I've kind of got an opinion, which might change when I hear your bits, because I stayed clear of the bits that you were doing.
But you know the story, though.
But I know the story,
yeah.
And I kind of have opinions on it. So we're going to start with probably the true horror story of the house.
Yeah.
The DeFeo murders.
Mm-hmm.
On November 12th, 1974, 6 members of the DeFeo family settled down to bed in their home they had lived in for almost a decade. 112 Ocean Avenue, Amityville, Staten Island, New York. They were blissfully unaware of the horror that lay ahead of them that night. The next day, on November 13th, the 7th member of the DeFeo family stumbled into Henry's bar, begging for help. he cried, "I think my mother and father are shot." His name is Ronnie DeFeo Jr. However, he was nicknamed Butch. And for clarity's sake in this, there's two Ronnie DeFeos. There's Ronnie DeFeo Sr. and Ronnie DeFeo Jr. Ronnie DeFeo Jr. is going to be called Butch. The dad, Ronnie DeFeo Sr., is going to go by his nickname that he was known in the community by as Big Ronnie.
Big Ronnie.
So just for clarity's sake, otherwise it gets far too confusing. Butch was crying hysterically and went to one of his friends that just so happened to be in the bar, Robert or Bobby Kelsky. He said, "Bobby, you gotta help me. Someone shot my mother and father." Bobby, unsure what to make of this, attempted to offer reassuring words asking, "Are you sure they're not just asleep?" To which Butch replied, "No, I saw them up there." And with that, Bobby sprung into action and rounded up some more men in the pub to go over to Butch's house. A group of them, which included John Altieri, Joey Yeswoit, Al Saxton, and the owner of the bar, William Scordagmaglia. I think that's the best we're going to get.
That's quite a mouthful.
It's a mouthful.
Yeah.
So, along with Butch and Bobby, they bundled into Butch's car and Bobby behind the wheel. They sped off to Butch's family home, which was only a block away. The men shouted at Bobby to slow down, but he was frantic and ignored their request. The car came to a quick halt and Bobby, unsure of what lay ahead, ran up the steps to the front door, with the other men pleading with him to be careful, as someone may still be in there. This did not slow Bobby down and he continued inside the unlocked front door. The family sheepdog, Shaggy, was tied to a handle inside of the kitchen door, which was normal for the family as he was not fully toilet trained. His barking broke the eerie silence inside the home. Bobby, still in front of the men, led the men upstairs, and being a friend of Butch's, he was familiar with the layout of the home and knew where he was going. His steps had purpose. He was heading to the second floor bedrooms. The men were hit with a stench of death that was overwhelming before their eyes met the horrors that lay before them. It was clear something was terribly wrong. Bobby stopped at the threshold to the master bedroom and nervously flicked on the light. This would be the first of the grisly discoveries. In bed, face down, Butch's parents, Ronald DeFeo Sr., or Big Ronnie, age 43, and his wife, Louise DeFeo, age 43. Immediately they saw gunshot wounds which confirmed that they were definitely not just sleeping. Bobby was on the brink of passing out, so some of the men led him back downstairs, leaving John Altieri on the second floor, where he headed to the bedroom on the northeast of the home. He found the bodies of two young boys, both face down like their parents in their bed. The boys were Butch's younger brothers, Mark, aged 12, and John, aged 9. He could see the boys had been fatally wounded, although the wounds on John were harder to pinpoint, as his sweatshirt was covered in blood. Mark had a crumpled blanket at the end of the bed, meaning his back was exposed and his wounds visible, which was a single bullet wound in his back. John Altieri decided he had seen enough, so joined the others downstairs, and at this point Joe Yeswoit called 911. When police arrived, the men were huddled on the front lawn in shock and most of them were crying. Butch, aged 23 at this time, had a glassy-eyed stare and was gazing off into the distance. When police spoke to him, he wasted no time in telling them what he believed had happened. He said the only thing that made sense to him was that his dad must have been involved in organised crime and this must have been a mob hit. When the police entered the house, they saw the scene the men had described, plus two additional bodies. Butch's sisters, Dawn, aged 18, and Alison, aged 13, were also found face down in their beds. Alison had died instantly from a shot to her cheek, and Dawn had a singular bullet wound. Investigators believe she could have been the only family member awake and aware of her fate before her demise. It was noted that Butch's behaviour was odd, and despite being surrounded by other men who were crying, and this being his family, Butch didn't shed a single tear. He was taken to the police station, and although initially not thought of as a suspect, the police obviously wanted to gather all the information he had as the only surviving family member.
Yeah.
His stories were inconsistent and would change each time he spoke to police, recounting the hours leading up to the murders. He claimed he was out with friends, but later claimed he was in the basement smoking weed, so was unaware to the events happening upstairs. The mob theory didn't make sense to crime scene investigators, as there was no signs of forced entry into the home. So they requested Butch stayed at the station and he was held in a holding cell. Butch told police once he starts talking, they wouldn't believe what happened, which led officers to believe he had something to do with the crime. They continued to interview him, saying that his theory of a mob hit just didn't make sense, and also this didn't look like a robbery gone wrong. The coroner also was able to confirm the time of death being around 3 a.m, which also revealed another quite gaping hole in his story, in that he had originally said before he went to work that morning he had seen them all alive and well. So that was...
Why are you lying?
Yeah, that was quite a big one. So in his next lot of questioning, he decided to tell police what actually happened. He said it all happened so fast, and once he started, he just couldn't stop. As Butch told his story, the police discovered he had murdered his entire family, so they made him sign a written confession and charged him with murder. Amityville was in a state of shock at the events. Many members of the community knew the DeFeos and knew Butch was troubled, but this seemed out of the realm of possibility. So I'm going to go into a bit of background about the family.
Yeah.
And when I looked into what the family were actually like, it seems that they were one of these families that as long as everything looked okay from the outside, everything's fine.
Right.
But what goes on underneath doesn't get dealt with, and that's just such a red flag.
Yeah.
Like, never a good thing. As a younger bloke, Big Ronnie was slender and handsome and attracted the attention of Louise Briganti, a beautiful, aspiring model. They dated for a brief period before they got married. Louise's parents did not approve of their marriage, so they broke all ties with the couple until their first grandchild, which was Butch, came, and then they reunited with the couple. But I don't know why they didn't approve of it, but from what
like
I'm about to go on to with Big Ronnie, it's probably just that they don't like him. Yeah.
They were quite young then when they had him, because you said they were 43 when they died. Yeah, and he was what, 23?
23 when the murders occurred, so they were 20.
Wow.
Over the years, they welcomed 3 more children, Dawn, Alison and Mark. And after Mark was born, Louise left Big Ronnie for reasons that remain unclear to this day. And again, they remain unclear to this day, but I'm pretty sure it's him.
Yeah.
Big Ronnie charmed her back by co-writing the song The Real Thing, which jazz legend Joe Williams recorded on his album One Lonesome Number, which I don't know that album, I don't know
the song.
It's such a random thing though. He recorded a track. Yeah, and it did work. She came back and they reunited and welcomed their final child, John. They relocated from a Brooklyn apartment to a lavish home in Amityville. Big Ronnie was a manager at a car dealership, and the move raised eyebrows from those who knew the family, as people didn't know how they afforded the home in an affluent neighbourhood on Big Ronnie's salary. Behind the scenes, the DeFeo were receiving financial help from Louise's dad, Michael Briganti. He had even paid a $50,000 bill to the family for extravagant portraits to be painted that line the staircase wall in large golden frames to immortalise the DeFeo family. So, I don't know if... Louise must have come from money.
Yeah.
She must have been accustomed to a certain lifestyle.
Maybe that's why the family didn't approve of him. Because he came from a different lifestyle.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, like, you know, the Victorian portraits.
Yeah.
This is what I'm thinking.
There's pictures of them. I'll get them up on the screen when we edit, because they were obviously taken pictures of when the crime scene investigators went in, so you can see these extravagant portraits. But if we think when these would have been done, so they lived in the Amityville home for 10 years, so possibly in the 60s, $50,000.
That is a lot.
That's a lot by today's standard.
I'll paint it.
They probably wouldn't want to pay $50,000 for that.
No.
But it seems like Butch was just getting a bit of a free ride on Michael Briganti's buck, because the way they also afforded the home, they got money lent from Michael.
Right.
So Big Ronnie was getting this sweet deal, really, which could be why they didn't like him, on top of the other things I'm going to go into.
It's worth writing a song for, though, isn't it?
Yeah. Wonder if he got royalties from that as well. But I think Louise was probably accustomed to this kind of lifestyle.
Yeah.
So the Amityville home was a large 3-storey Dutch colonial home built in 1926, which had 2 half-moon windows at the front, which many say look like eyes. It had a pool and a boathouse, and the interior was impressive, with a marble-covered foyer, formal dining room and when I tell you what their wallpaper was, you're going to cringe, because it was lined with red velvet textured wallpaper.
That was a choice.
And a Dutch-style table in the centre of the room underneath a crystal chandelier. The living room contained a baby grand piano, a large fireplace, and expensive paintings and statues scattered around the room. Big Ronnie and Louise had insisted on the most expensive items for their home. In the front garden, a lamppost stood with a sign, High Hopes, attached to it, and kneeling behind the sign was 3 figurines of children playing to the larger statue of St. Joseph holding the baby Jesus. And I think it's said that when they moved in, Louise sort of christened the house as High Hopes, which is just really...
so random.
Yeah. But it's kind of... I don't know what the word is. Kind of grim now.
Foreboding.
Yeah. Exactly that. And I believe Louise was kind of into her religion, so...
Clearly, if she had a statue of the baby Jesus.
Yeah.
That's not something you just find in B&M.
Yeah. But I think the fact that they insisted on having the nicest things, even though they were only on a car dealership's money, just really reinforces the fact this family were all about show.
Yeah. Although I can a little bit relate to that. I do...
Oh, yeah.
I like a champagne lifestyle
doesn't?
on a lemonade budget.
Yeah. So from the outside, the DeFeos had the idyllic suburban lifestyle. Big Ronnie was known for his booming presence and big sense of humour. Louise was adored by everyone who knew her. She had a gentle personality and was a doting homemaker. However, behind the scenes, the family was not so idyllic. Those close to the family saw another side to Big Ronnie, which is what I mean by I think it's just him.
Yeah.
He was known for enforcing strict discipline on the children, and later in Butch's court case, Louise's brother, who was also called Michael, recounted an incident where Butch was just 2 years old. He said Butch had done something that just enraged Big Ronnie, and he was pushed against a wall, and Michael remembered witnessing Butch either banging his head or part of his shoulder, which is quite extreme for a 2-year-old.
Yeah. I mean, that's like, generally extreme, but for a 2-year-old.
For a 2-year-old, like, that is over the top. And there's another incident that was told of Big Ronnie's treatment towards not only the children but Louise, where she was walking up the stairs with some washing she had folded, and Big Ronnie had pushed her back down the stairs. So this guy, just an arsehole.
Yeah.
Let's just call it as it is. As a child, Butch was extremely overweight and was teased at school by bigger kids that would call him names like the Blob, Bucky Beaver, and Pork Chop. As the eldest child and being a boy, Butch had high expectations of him, and Butch recalls his father being emotionally unpredictable, 1 minute hugging him and the next throwing him across the room, which obviously those reports are
Yeah.
corroborated by other people. He lost weight moving into his teenage years when he started to engage in substance use. He was known to use quite the cocktail of heroin, amphetamines, LSD and weed.
Yeah.
Probably among other things.
You started out strong there with the heroin.
He was on a real cocktail. At 13, Butch was taken to a child psychiatrist after he attacked his grandfather. Butch was known to the community as a spoilt brat who dropped out of high school and only worked periodically at his dad's dealership. And he was allegedly stealing at least $500 a week from the dealership, which, how is this dealership still going?
That's very noticeable.
When someone's stealing this much.
That's interesting as well, that they thought he was spoiled, because everything that you said doesn't sound like he was.
Yeah, but I'm thinking because of the material items of the house and the fact that he only worked periodically but kept up such a drug habit.
Yeah, I mean, the fact he could take consistently $500 a week, I suppose.
I don't know if that's true, because how is that dealership still
Yeah,
afloat?
what the hell?
Especially back in those days, like, that would have been a lot of money.
It's quite a salary.
And as well as that, he would just take anything else he could get away with. So what
Is that like
means...
a attention, like a cry for attention type thing? I'm just hoping that someone's going to be like, stop taking stuff.
Unless he was just using it to obviously fund his drug habit. And he was said to be often in a drug-fueled haze by those who knew him, and his behaviour was only getting more and more problematic.
Yeah.
The more it continued. He was described as paranoid and disassociated from reality. He got into bar fights often and was deteriorating physically and mentally. He had pulled a gun out on his friend on one occasion, but explained it was only a joke. And if any of my friends are doing that, I'm not writing it off as a joke. But...
Spanner in it.
He allegedly started to hear voices telling him to be careful of his family and those around him. His friends described him as being out of control and that he had something inside of him, something dark. He was pulling away from those who knew him, and many could see how deranged he was becoming, often speaking in nonsensical, slurred speech. That would be the drugs.
Yeah.
A year before the murders, he actually pulled a gun out on his father and pulled the trigger, but the gun misfired. So I don't know why this guy's allowed a gun at this point.
Just take that away, first of all.
The exact guy who shouldn't be allowed a gun with all this behaviour. Big Ronnie believed that drugs destroyed society and was hard on Butch because of his behaviour. Big Ronnie believed in tough love and discipline, and Louise did not want Butch to get therapy, as she believed that this would taint their family's image.
Oh, really?
So
he's already pulled a gun out on multiple people. I think the image is gone. Get your son some help, please.
So they did take him to a child psychiatrist at 13 after he attacked his grandfather, but it seems since then... I read quite a lot of things of Big Ronnie just being like, we're not taking him to therapy, all this boy needs is tough love. But so far in his life, since the age of 2, probably before, since the day he was born, you have done that, and it's not working, so maybe you need to try a different approach.
Yeah.
But Louise also wanted to deal with his behaviour within the family, and I imagine Big Ronnie was like the head decision maker of, we're not going to pander this boy in family, even if they wanted to give him a little gentler discipline. They didn't want to do that, but Louise then thought, I'll just pray for my son to hopefully get better and rid him of his demons, and that comforted her.
Pray the drugs away.
Yeah. And like you said, their image was becoming tainted as neighbours would hear screaming matches between the DeFeos and their son. His sister Dawn, being the second eldest, was also the closest sibling to Butch, but in this time even she had trouble reaching him. Big Ronnie threatened to cut Butch off financially, which caused Butch's paranoia to get worse. And he had this idea that his parents had $250,000 in cash stashed in the house that they were hiding from him. But I don't know if this was purely his delusion.
Yeah.
Or if this was founded, because it just seems really bizarre.
That is a strange thought. But I guess, drugs will do that to you.
So he believed if he could get this money, he would have freedom and space between him and his father, which he felt he desperately needed, which I think he probably did desperately need. Tensions escalated again 2 weeks before the murders when Butch was accused of stealing several thousand in cash from the dealership, where police actually got involved, and upon questioning, Butch became combative and uncooperative. His father was furious, and they had a fight that people witnessed where Butch was seen shouting, "You fat prick, I'll kill you," before getting in his car and speeding off. So I don't know if that's several thousand of all this $500 here and there adding up to several thousand, or if it was several thousand in one lump sum. But how is this dealership still going? And get some better security measures on your money. Why are you still...
Stop letting him around.
Why are you stashing cash where this guy can get some?
Also, I don't know about you, but I find that prick is just such a... I'd rather you drop a C-bomb. Call me a C-bomb.
Really?
I'd rather it. Something about it.
I find it's a very British insult.
It just really cuts me deep.
Prick.
I think it's just the way it comes out.
Yeah, I can't do it properly at the moment.
It's just so aggressive and yeah.
Yeah, no, I do get that. And the night before the murders, Butch and Big Ronnie got involved in a physical altercation between one another. And I don't know how we know this, whether this is from Butch's account, because if it was inside the home...
Yeah.
Who else was actually there to witness it other than Butch? During his confession, Butch said his motive was that he could not take his father's control and discipline anymore. He said he hated him. He told police they deserved it and that his father was a bully and he did what he had to do. His defence team, however, wanted to go down the insanity route to give their client a lighter sentence, stating that he was not in the right state of mind when carrying out the offence. And to be honest, the behaviour of this guy, I reckon his defence team met with him and they were like, oh, brilliant. Perfect.
This is an easy out.
Yeah. Experts obviously met with him and came during the court case to give evidence, but they came up with mixed findings. One stating that he had antisocial personality disorder, which I believe at this back in the 70s would have still been referred to as psychopathy.
Right.
And another said delusional disorder, but the experts both agreed his behaviour was fueled by drug use. So both of these conditions are going to be made worse by the absolute cocktail of drugs that he was on. And just a side note, I was watching this other case being discussed about a woman who was on meth and mutilated this man's body. Absolutely horrific case. And I think her defence team tried to go down the insanity route because of the meth.
Yeah.
But apparently, if you are temporarily insane by drug use, it's actually not a get out of jail free card because you've taken that substance knowing the risk. So apparently it doesn't hold up.
But so you wouldn't even get like diminished responsibility?
No,
it just
because
is what
you've
it is.
taken the meth.
Okay. Yeah, I suppose that's kind of fair, yeah.
You've made that choice and that's what... But I don't know if that's true, that's just what I've heard. So if anyone knows, comment down below, because it's quite interesting, really, that it wouldn't be diminished responsibility. But...
I mean, in a way, I guess it kind of makes sense, but...
Yeah, I think it makes sense, but I don't know if... I always think every court case is different, and it's how good your lawyer can argue, and each state's laws are different, and... everything like that, but it really is a chess match on how well your lawyer can argue and put on a show for the jury on what you get. Something that was usually left out of the courtroom but was starting to gain traction in the community was a narrative of satanic rituals and demonic possession, and many believed that the house had led to the tragedy, that it had a dark presence that had taken over Butch that night. The defence and prosecution argued their case all while Butch sat in the court disassociative and non-reactive to the horrors that were being displayed. The prosecution said that there was evidence that showed that these murders were not carried out by someone who was having a psychotic episode, and the murders and the events after the murders were carefully planned and showed he was in the right state of mind when carrying this out. They believed He did this as he wanted the money he believed was hidden, and his siblings were collateral damage, because obviously he wouldn't be able to leave any witnesses to make his mob hit theory hold up.
Yeah.
The prosecution's version of events, coming from Butch's confession and later evidence from the crime scene, was that once the DeFeo family had gone to sleep, Butch had stayed up. He rose from his bed around 3 a.m. He went to his hidden rifle cabinet in his room and took out a Marlin .35 caliber rifle. He quietly opened his parents' room, where he found them asleep on their stomachs. He shot his father twice. Louise stirred from the noise but was quickly shot. Both of their deaths were pretty much instant. He moved through the house next, going to his brother's room, who were sound asleep, and shot both of them once, killing them instantly. Finally, he reached his sister's room, shooting Alison in her sleep, and as I said earlier, investigators think Dawn may have awoken and later been shot. After he had killed his entire family, he showered, casually, and changed his blood-stained clothes, wrapped the clothes and rifle in a pillowcase, and then drove to a storm drain in Brooklyn and disposed of the evidence. Then returned home and went to work as if nothing had happened. Whilst at work, he made periodic calls home, which obviously went unanswered, as a way to play innocent. He said that there was not much work for him to do that morning, so he left in the afternoon to hang out with his friends to do heroin, before going into Henry's bar, acting as if he had just made the gruesome discovery. The defence argued that psychosis presents differently, and even though he appeared calm and methodical when carrying out the murders, he could have still been in a psychotic episode. When Butch gave testimony, this guy just didn't help himself, and I can imagine the defence were literally just sat there like, why did we let this guy get on the stand? He should have just stood silent. Or I don't know if it's, you know, when teachers reach the end of their tether and they're like, I get paid whether you learn or not.
Yeah.
This is for you. I get paid whether you go to jail or not, so say whatever you want. But he did not help himself on the stand. He spoke about the horrors that his father inflicted on him as a child and said that's why he used substances. He justified killing his mother, describing her as weak, and then he went on to justify killing his siblings, saying they were stupid children and therefore the world would not be affected by their loss.
Damn.
Can you imagine the defence team looking at him like...
Calibrate.
We told you to fake empathy.
Yeah. At least shed a tear.
So he gave wildly contrasting accounts. On one hand, he said he could have been hearing voices during the murders. However, he could not be sure. Which, again, the defence must have been like, we had this insanity thing in our hands. The community's thinking the house is haunted and you had a demon inside you. All you had to do was like, yeah, I heard voices and I feel bad about it now. Yeah. And you would have got diminished responsibility, but you went out there and said, I don't feel bad. The world won't miss them. And I probably wasn't hearing voices.
He literally had to do the bare minimum. He could have just got up there and started making some weird noises and rambling, and that would have been perfect.
Just do your normal slurred nonsensical speech that you've been doing for the past 5 years and everyone knows you for. Why are you doing this to us? I would be so livid. But I don't know if it is a case of like, I don't care what happens to you, I'm getting paid for being here, so you do you, boo. So... the first time the jury deliberated, they came back 10-2, which 2 jurors were unsure about his mental state, but after re-reviewing the transcript, the jury came back unanimous. They found him guilty of 6 counts of second-degree murder, and as the verdict and sentence was handed to him but showed no emotion. And the difference between first and second degree murder is that with first degree murder, the defendant is accused of intentionally planning and then carrying out the murders, whereas second degree murder is intentional, but it's more spur of the moment.
Yeah.
I actually don't agree with this sentence. I think it should have been first degree murder because he stayed up until 3 a.m. But then I was thinking, I don't know how long of a time frame you have to be planning it for, but I think anywhere outside of 5 minutes, you've got time to be like, maybe this isn't the best of ideas. And if they had a fight the evening before, he should have cooled down by 3 a.m. when the murders happened. So I don't agree with it, but I don't know if it's because the two jurors were like, we're just not sure on his mental state. Because I can imagine how he did present on the stand was probably quite bizarre, and if his stories were conflicting, and the experts who gave evidence were like, this guy's got some stuff going on.
Yeah.
We don't know what it is, and we can't agree on what it is, but there's something just not right about him.
Sat there deadpan.
Yeah. But since serving his sentence, Butch has spun yet more stories of what occurred that night. And in one story, he spun the narrative that his sister Dawn was actually the perpetrator and he was the victim.
Yeah, this guy.
So he would tell anyone that would listen. Imagine being in a cell next to this guy and it's like, I've heard the Dawn theory like 10 times. Like, I'm
just really sick of hearing it. He's telling it and the guy's just like mouthing the words like verbatim. He's heard it so many times.
So he said that Dawn had asked him to kill their parents as she wanted to run off with her boyfriend. He said he had denied Dawn's request, like the hero he clearly is, but she kept pestering him, but he still denied her. So he said that morning he woke up to the sound of gunshots, the only DeFeo family member who seemingly did, which I'll get onto in a bit, because that's also bizarre. But
yeah, apparently, sleeper.
Yeah, he woke up to the gunshots, which no one else did. And at that moment, he realised, Dawn's been asking me to do this for months, so she must have gone through with her plan.
Dawn. God.
And he had just seen her kill his siblings, so he grabbed his rifle and found Dawn and decided to kill her, to stop her. But at that point, she had already killed everyone, so why are you stopping her anyway?
Yeah. Could you not, as a grown man, restrain her and maybe call the police?
And also, if this was true, why didn't you just call the police at 3 a.m. on November 13th?
And why would you kill people to then run away? Just skip the killing bit. If
just run away.
Just run away, right? Because
yeah. Well, this is the argument about the Menendez brothers, the Gypsy Rose case, as they said, we had no other choice, it was them or us, but they weren't in a life or death situation, so they could have run away, even though it would have been difficult. So I think this is something very similar. He wanted to get rid of his parents, and also actually use the same story as the Menendez brothers, because they said it was a mob hit.
Interesting.
I wonder when that happened, if he took some inspiration.
Yeah.
Who inspired who?
Or was it just because there was a big mob presence in Staten Island, wasn't there?
I don't know.
Oh, I think there was at that time. So maybe he was like, man, why not?
Well, he's got to come up with some story, but obviously he then was questioned by police and they were like, well, this story isn't holding up. So he was like, I'm going to tell the truth. Then when he was sat in prison with his sentence, he was like, I actually don't want to be here. Like, I'm just going to chuck Dawn under the bus.
Yeah, what can I... Oh, Dawn. I'm pretty sure Capone had a house in Staten Island.
Oh.
I think, yeah.
Oh. Well, maybe he got inspiration from that. Who knows? Who knows what goes on inside this guy's head? There are some bizarre elements to the crime. So it's clear that Butch was somehow involved, and that's me saying that. I think it's clear that this guy had something to do with it. There's no scenario in my brain where he is an innocent party, but there's debate whether he was the sole killer. So some experts say that these murders could not have been carried out by a single person due to the fact that no one woke up to the gunshots.
Yep.
So some believe Dawn and other friends of Butch's were involved. But if Dawn was involved, why was she then shot and his other friends weren't?
Yeah.
And I don't know, I just think once this guy's incarcerated, I think he would talk. I think he's a loose cannon, and I really think if anyone else was involved, he would have alluded to it.
Although, if he was taking as many drugs as he was taking, could it be possible that he doesn't actually remember anyone else being involved?
I don't know. I think I just think he would have spoken.
It's just not possible for him. It doesn't make sense that it was just him, though. Because this would be a long, drawn-out process of reloading.
Yeah.
And it's very loud.
I know, and there was the wounds on the bodies. I'll just say to people, it was shown that no muffler was used.
Yeah.
What the way the wounds were, I don't know.
You did say a shotgun, didn't you?
No, it's a 35 caliber rifle.
Oh, okay.
Which is still, it makes a great deal of noise.
Yeah.
And no muffler was used. And there was no signs that anyone else besides Dawn woke up from the noise, and there was no signs of struggle. And what's weirder is neighbours also report hearing Shaggy the sheepdog barking that night, but said this was normal for that dog. They didn't think anything of it, but they didn't hear the gunshots. And I feel like if you can hear a dog barking...
Yeah, you'd definitely hear that.
You'd hear
and
shotgun.
It would be multiple, so it's not like you'd hear it once and be like, oh, what was that?
Was that a firework?
Yeah. And then, but it would be multiple times.
Yeah, so it just
it doesn't make sense to me. How
No.
can it just be? Did you say, did he drug them or no? They didn't find anything in their systems.
So some people thought that it was possible that he drugged them, and I believe that Butch himself has also said, yeah, I slipped something into their food that night, which also, that is first degree murder then, because you planned before they even went to bed that you were going to do this, and you obtained drugs and slipped them into their food. And an expert said, this checks out because there was no needle poke marks on the bodies, so if they did have any barbiturates in their system, it would be from their food or drink.
Mm-hmm.
However, the toxicology report came back and there was no drugs in their system, so I don't know if that would be possible still, if something could be hidden.
Yeah, or like a fast metabolising something.
Yeah.
Or what about if it was like antihistamines? Would that come up in a...
I'm pretty sure it would still come up.
Would it?
That they had high levels of antihistamines in them, so they could...
I don't know what does.
And also, he had access to heroin. He would just use that. He's not going to use a little bit of Benadryl. He's like, I've got the stuff.
He's like, I'm not using the good stuff on it. Get the Benadryl out.
Because I thought, they must have been drugged.
Yeah.
And he himself has even said that. But then again, I don't know why he said that.
He said a lot of things.
When the toxicology report came back as, no, they weren't drugged. Because when you say that, I don't know if he said it before and after sentencing, which is important. Because after sentencing, you can say what you like. The trial's over. You're not going to get retried and get a harsher sentence. And he got 25 to life and he died in prison. He was in there way over 25 years. So I'm guessing the parole board, every time they met with him, were just like, you're not fit to be out in society.
Well, yeah, they did, because he blamed it on the film. Like, just no accountability, because he was like, the film is just ruining it for me. Not the fact that I killed my entire family, it's the film. And that's why they're not letting me out.
Yeah, so I think that is a part of the conditions of the parole board. They want to know that you've taken accountability for your crime and tried to grow from it, but he has never told a single solid story.
Yeah.
So you don't know what's true and what's not. But I find it weird that he said, yeah, I drugged them, because then it makes it look far more intentional and
it's not looking great for him.
Just in the moment. But yeah, it was found that there was no drugs in the system officially. Another thing that's really bizarre, and I don't recommend anyone going to look at these, but the crime scene pictures are very easy to find online, because in my research, I didn't want to see the crime scene pictures, but they were everywhere.
Really?
They were in a lot of places. So once I had seen them, you can't
see
them.
Yeah.
So I was having a look at them, and they are all in the same position. And if you're a family... a family of 6? Are you all going to sleep in the same position?
And sleeping on your front is not really the way most people sleep. I mean, it's the way I sleep.
Yeah.
But...
And one of the younger brothers, I can't remember if it was John or Mark, but one of them had a wheelchair next to their bed, and they had actually had a sporting injury. So due to this injury, whatever it was, it would have been either uncomfortable or impossible for him to sleep on his front. So that wasn't a natural position. So then I thought, well, where the body's moved, but then
they'd know that.
They know that because of where the wounds are, and the wounds, the blood's not disturbed or anything like that. So that's not feasible. And then I thought, well, did he threaten them with a gun, and when you're holding a gun to someone, they will pretty much do what they want? But then I thought one member of the family would fight back, because at the point he's saying, lie down on your front because I'm going to shoot you, what's the harm in fighting back?
And then there's noise to wake up other family members.
Yeah.
Unless they were drugged.
Because even if we say that multiple people went round to room... So there was 3 people involved and each took a separate room, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Why are they all in the same position?
Plus,
to me, that just doesn't make any sense.
But they also said that they only thought Dawn might have woken up. So they know that the others died in their sleep.
But also Louise was thought to have stirred. So it would... Because it would have been like... Big Ronnie dies, Louise is stirring, and then she's instantly dead. So maybe Alison died in the room, and then Dawn stirred, and then... But they were all in the same position, but sort of... You could see Dawn being moved slightly. But all in the same position on your front.
That does seem weird.
It is weird. So that's why other people were like, it's got to be a satanic ritual because of the positioning of the bodies. Which I don't...
What Satan only accepts if you're on your front. I don't get that. I don't get how that has any...
Or like just the fact that everyone was found in the same position. It's more of a ritualistic element to a crime.
Right.
And there was already all these rumblings of the house being possessed.
Yeah.
And although you've got to think the community thought, well, we knew he was troubled, but we didn't know he was capable of this. The guy has pulled a gun out on 2 people, one of which was his father, when he tried to shoot him, and a week before the murders, he said, "You fat prick, I'll kill you."
I guess there's a difference between hating your dad and then, like, your own, or your sibling, like, your entire family.
Yeah, because on one hand, you can see, like, obviously the dad was awful to them. I don't think he deserved to die in the way he did. I think he deserved to have his day in court for abusing his entire family, it seems.
Or just getting cut off, really.
Yeah, just getting cut off.
Yeah.
I think there is something evil about killing your siblings.
Yeah.
Because that just really isn't justified.
And your mum as well, because you could argue that the mum was as much of a victim as the rest of the family.
But I think I read another report from an expert saying about his traits of narcissism, and I can really see this guy thinks he is the eternal victim, which is like quite a big trait of narcissism.
Yeah.
When you see narcissists, they always have this story and way of making it all about their suffering and their downfall. So he probably thought the whole world was against him and his whole family were against him. And I think the money was a massive motivating factor as well, because we knew this guy had a penchant for stealing, and if he
drugs.
believed that there was 250,000 in the house, and I think I also read somewhere else that 200,000 of life insurance if he had left his siblings, they would be the beneficiary as well. So the cards are stacked up against him. But I don't know if there was multiple perpetrators. There is just something odd about it.
There's a question mark for sure, but no question mark that he was involved, like you say. That seems very definitive.
Yeah. And before he died in prison on, I've got the date actually, he died in prison on March 12th, 2021. Wonder if he died from COVID. I don't know.
Apparently he did a lot of drugs even in prison though, so could be the drugs.
That doesn't surprise me. But at some point before he died, obviously there was all this demon talk. He has said that many times that, the house made me do it. Like, he heard the rumours and was probably like, yes.
He was a bit slow to catch on.
He didn't do it up on the stand, but years later, he went back on that again and he said, there was no demon. I am the demon.
Oh, damn.
So,
well, that's probably the realest thing he said.
Yeah, I don't know if that was a deathbed thing or if he then went back on it the next day and was like, did I tell you about Dawn? Real wrong on that one.
Don't know if I mentioned it before. I think it was actually Dawn. Could you imagine as well being like close to the family or like family friends and you're friends with Dawn and her being blamed for it and you're just like, bruh.
We know it wasn't Dawn.
Yes.
They're like, Dawn didn't even have a boyfriend.
Yeah,
I don't know if she did or not. But
well, he's on a lot.
Yeah. So that concludes the Amityville DeFeo murders section. So the Amityville horror story narrative usually is focused on the Lutz family, which Ellen is now going to go into. But nevertheless, I think the DeFeo murders is sometimes overshadowed by the Lutz family haunting.
I think that's the saddest part, isn't it? That it is so overshadowed. Like, a genuine horror for sure happened there.
Whether or not
just
hauntings were involved, this has made it so sensationalised, and I think it's overshadowed.
Okay, so
The Lutzes.
The Lutzes. So George Lutz was the patriarch of the family. Kathy Lutz, George's wife, brought her 3 young children from a previous marriage into their newly blended household. Her children were Daniel, aged 9, Christopher, age 7, and Melissa, who went by Missy, age 5. And they also had a family dog called Harry, which was a Malamute Labrador mix. Sounds quite cute. The house was beautiful, even picturesque. It was on the water with a heated pool, a boathouse, a garage, and over 4,000 square foot in size. It couldn't have been more perfect for the Lutz family. Kathy Lutz described the house as charming the first time she saw it, and George said she had a grin as if to say she knew that this was going to be the house for them. George and Kathy had brought their friend along to see the house and had given her a camera to take pictures as they were shown around. Before they left, Kathy asked whether she felt anything strange in the house, and the friend said that she didn't know why, but she had a strong feeling that something wasn't right. It was at that point that they saw the bullet holes in the wall. George was said to have actually laughed when he found them.
Do you know what?
Such a dick
Why
move.
couldn't they plaster them up? Why? I don't understand why the estate agents didn't plaster them up. But
they didn't even clean all the furniture.
No, I don't know if they were making such a loss on it anyway, because it was sold quite under value, because this was only a year after, wasn't it, that they moved in. Probably when Butch got sent to prison, because they were like, oh, he actually won't be needing it anymore. He's not innocent, he's not getting this.
So, should we do what? Everyone knows what happened here, let's just put it up as it is.
It sounded like they didn't until they saw the bullet holes and George laughed.
I mean, and why would you admit to that as well? Like, I actually laughed.
I think I didn't look too much into the Lutz stuff, but the stuff I heard was that George saw them, laughed, and was like, nothing's going to put me off buying this.
Well, he said he just couldn't. He said he didn't laugh because of the murders, but he laughed because he couldn't believe something like that had happened, because he just didn't feel anything off in the house. But I don't know why you just be like, ha. Moving on.
Literally nothing's going to put me off buying this. You could take a turd in the living room, a steaming shit, and I would still buy this house.
It's got a chandelier though.
It's got red velvet wallpaper.
I love that.
And the $50,000 portraits. I mean, it's not of us, but $50,000.
Just put our faces over their faces at that point. So, yeah, the house was on the market for $100,000, and they put in an offer for $80,000, and that was accepted. George said that they sat down as a family and spoke about the fact that the murders occurred in the house, and that they asked each of the children whether it would be an issue to have a bedroom where previous children had been killed, and he said each one said it was fine, which, I'm sorry, but you asked a 5-year-old.
I was about to say, one of them was 5.
Like, yeah, some people died in here. You okay with that? Oh, do they even understand what that means? Can they? Even at 9, you can't truly comprehend that, surely.
I know my age now, my big old age now, it would be a straight no.
It's a hard no.
I'm not moving into anywhere that's happened. But as a 5-year-old, I'm pretty sure I'm going to protest somewhat. Like, I would.
But would you even really understand it at 5? Surely,
he's just walking around like, here's one of the bullets.
This is what happened. And we're actually going to keep some of the furniture in your room.
He let them. Sorry, I know you're probably going to get onto this, but I found it when I was researching the Warren thing. He let the children sleep in the beds that the children were murdered in. Yeah. And I'm sorry, I think that's wrong.
The bare minimum you could do is get them a new bed, surely.
I think they changed the mattress, but I'm not sure if they changed the kids' mattress. I know they changed their own mattress because they slept in the same bed that George and Kathy died in. No, not George and Kathy, Ronald and Louise died in. But I think that's wrong to let your children sleep in those beds. Like, I don't know what is wrong about it, but I just feel like
it's like they went so hard for, like, there's no issue here. Like, they went so hard for, no, I can't even sense anything, like, it's all fine. Just get new beds.
You've got a house that's luxurious, that is much under
You
its
saved
value.
20 grand.
Buy your children some new beds. I don't care if you don't feel any bad juju. That is just asking for trouble and B, wrong.
And even if I got a house and no one died in it, I'm not sleeping in their bed.
No, it's wrong on so many levels.
Yeah.
But the children were literally murdered in their sleep, and you're letting them sleep in those beds. I don't know why I find it so. I just have such a strong
grim.
visceral reaction to it. I would borderline say it's either neglectful or some sort of abuse. Because if I then was older and I learned that at 5 years old you couldn't even buy me a new bed to sleep in, you let me lay in the deathbed of another child,
Yeah.
I'm going to feel some type of way about it.
I feel like that's something that would come up in therapy, and then the therapist is like, yeah, that's probably it. And you're like, oh, damn, yeah.
This is why my whole life has been like this.
That makes a lot of sense.
I don't know if it's just the morbid sense of it, or
I think regardless,
I don't know, it just feels
you just
so
shouldn't
wrong.
do that. Yeah.
But we'll move on from it, because I'm just getting heated. But why?
Yeah. Sweet dreams, kids. But anyway, yeah, he reiterated that buying the house was far from a rash decision. George bought some of the furniture that was originally left in the house from the DeFeo estate.
So he had to pay for it
Yeah.
too. He could have just paid for new furniture. That makes it even
Some
worse.
of which still had bloodstains on. This
We could
included
upholster it.
just a fresh lick of paint. That's all it needs. This included the dresser, which was in Dawn DeFeo's room, which was now Missy's room, along with the bed frame, which obviously we know
It's an antique. Can't get rid of that.
solid oak. Fool.
I already hate this guy.
I can just imagine him knocking on it like nice, giving the bed a little shake. Sturdy.
All it needs is a fresh lick of paint. Don't even need to wash the blood off.
They're like, do you want to have a look at any of the furniture from the estate? He's like, we'll have a look. Of course we'll have a look. All those TikToks. Anyway. Oh, God. So.
This is going to take a while to get through, I can tell, because I don't even know what happens in a lot of what happens in this story, but this man is infuriating me.
Oh, to be fair, I just think he is quite a big dick. That is
Cheapskate
the,
or
like, just generally
dick?
an arsehole
Okay.
was the vibe.
Do you know what he is? He's a prick.
He is a prick. And when I go into the hauntings, I'm going to say, well, like, what they ended up saying, because their stories did change quite a lot. But on the second floor, the sewing room was supposedly plagued by swarms of flies, an unsettling detail that Christopher still recalls vividly. So, I mean,
Probably
that has
the fact
a bit
they didn't
of
even
weight.
clean the crime scene.
Yeah.
And they kept the furniture.
Yeah, probably, yeah, it could be that. The room often carried an unnatural chill, as if something unseen lingered just beyond reach. One moment stands out in Christopher's memory. He was in the basement with his mother and George when he innocently asked, "Is this where they hid the bodies?" His mother turned to George, and George met her gaze. Then they both looked back at Christopher and said nothing, which I find really odd because the bodies weren't hidden. So then it makes me think,
I don't know, but you sat your children down and went step by step and said, "Are you okay with this? Are you okay with this?" So they probably heard murders and their childhood imagination just ran away with them. They know there's bodies somewhere in there. So I don't find that necessarily like there was anything paranormal about that. I think he just heard the story from his
Yeah,
from
probably
his
thought
stepdad.
like basements are creepy.
Not even my real dad, and you're making me sleep in the bed of a murdered child.
I hate you.
I can imagine George just looking at Kathy like, sorry, is something up?
No, it's all fine.
No,
we
they
did
didn't.
ask you and you said it was fine, Christopher. Can you stop mentioning it, please? It's actually really irritating.
Christopher, they didn't hide the bodies down here. The bodies were laying in your bed.
You know the bed you sleep in? That's where they were, okay? No more
I can
questions.
go up and show you the blood spatter.
Oh my god. Yeah, he's just a fucking asshole, really. George was into transcendental meditation and would often sit in a specific position on the floor, legs crossed, palms open, holding his fingers in a strange way, as Christopher would recall, and making some very strange noises. He got Kathy into it too, and it became a frequent thing for them to do together. On one occasion, Kathy said that something reached out and took hold of her hand. Her only description for it was a touch of a woman, simply because you could feel the softness, yet know there was an inner strength involved. Kathy told George about this experience, and he put it down to the stress of moving into the new house. Classic. A classic.
It can't be the fact that we've just moved into a mass grave.
Yeah, this is... He was already filming the film, because this is the classic things that they do in that film, when they're like, I think you're overreacting. Oh, classic woman. Oh my god. On one weekend, several friends had come by to help them move in. One particular friend, Carol, recalls that as they pulled into the driveway, she suddenly felt very sick and dizzy. She felt so nauseous that she said she couldn't go into the house and had to go home. Even sitting outside of the house made her feel like she was going to pass out. George and Kathy later invited her to a housewarming party, and the same sick and dizzy feeling came over her, and again she couldn't step foot inside the house. Meanwhile, Kathy's encounters continued to intensify, especially in the bedroom, kitchen and dining room. One morning, her daughter Missy asked, "Mummy, do angels talk?" The dread. It's giving me goosebumps.
They probably didn't do this before moving into this house either, so I would be like, oh, we've made a terrible decision. We've made an error.
Get that for sale sign in the ground. Kathy, startled, understandably, asked her to explain, and Missy shrugged, saying, "Something talks to me and I answer." Kathy chalked it up to a vivid imagination, but soon after she'd hear her daughter having full conversations from behind her closed bedroom door. And even more disturbingly, she'd hear something respond.
Oh.
Upon opening the door, Kathy would find Missy seated on her bed, speaking towards her little rocking chair, which eerily rocked on its own, although nothing visible occupied it.
There are some items that you never want in your home, since horror movies, and a rocking chair is one of them.
For sure. I feel like they're made with bad juju. Oh, that was when Missy mentioned Jodie. Jodie, she said, was her friend, a creature no one else could see. The Lutz's description of Jodie would haunt readers and audiences for decades. A pig-like entity with glowing red eyes, often seen peering through the windows. George once claimed to have seen those eyes himself, reflecting in the darkness, and swore he'd found cloven hoof prints in the snow near the house. Yeah. Kathy, too, recounted a moment when she looked towards Missy's room and saw those burning red eyes staring back at her through the glass. This sinister presence seemed to be watching the family, bonding with their youngest and weaving itself into their lives. The encounters weren't isolated, nor were they subtle. Kathy Lutz described moments of sheer terror, being lifted from her bed by unseen force, her body suspended in midair before crashing back down.
George just wakes up and he's like, oh, of course.
We're not moving. This house was a steal.
Levitate all you like. We're not going anywhere.
George claimed to witness her levitating and sliding across the mattress. Probably the same one. Didn't even replace it. In another chilling episode, Kathy's face reportedly transformed before his eyes, aging grotesquely into that of a shriveled old woman, only to return to normal just moments later. Throughout the house, religious symbols seemed to rebel against their purpose. A crucifix Kathy had hung on the wall twisted upside down on its own, and she swore it emitted a foul sulphuric stench when it did.
That's when you know.
Yeah. Now that is the clincher. The walls themselves appeared to bleed. Green gelatinous slime oozed from cracks, keyholes, and even electrical outlets. The air was thick with the scent of decay, and cold spots would bloom in rooms that moments before had felt warm and safe. George, increasingly disturbed, found himself waking at exactly 3:15 a.m. every night, the time the DeFeo murders were believed to have occurred. Drawn by an invisible compulsion, he would leave the warmth of his bed to check the boathouse, as if summoned by something lurking beyond the water's edge. His obsession with the fireplace grew, stoking it endlessly in a futile attempt to chase away the chill. You know what, though? That seems like a classic thing. Like, men get the weirdest fixations, and he just suddenly got into the fireplace. He's like, I love this fireplace. I found that birch is the best to burn.
I think in the movie he just is constantly outside chopping wood.
Oh yeah, he is.
Yeah, so manly.
Yeah. Even the family dog, Harry, wasn't spared. The Malamute Labrador mix would growl at empty corners, hackles raised, and sometimes bark furiously at the walls as if something were moving beyond human perception. At one point, Harry was found hanging by his leash after trying to leap over the backyard fence.
Jesus.
An act in desperation that nearly cost him his life. Later, he refused to enter certain rooms, especially the basement. The dog's instincts seemed to confirm what the family feared. Something malevolent had taken root in their home.
Again, maybe it's
It's all adding up.
Maybe it's the gruesome murders that took place before you got in there, which you knew full well about.
Yeah, and happily moved in. Carol said whatever happened to the Lutz family made them flee their house in the middle of the night, leaving all of their clothes and furniture behind. They went to a motel for the first night, and George later reflected that while Ronald DeFeo had physically committed the murders, he believed the man wasn't spiritually or emotionally responsible. In George's mind, the house itself had exerted a sinister influence, manipulating Ronnie and controlling him. That belief only deepened the tragedy, knowing Ronnie was serving 6 life sentences for crimes George felt were not entirely his own.
I'm going to save my opinions till the end, otherwise I'm just going to end up going over the same thing. But what a load of bollocks.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll just say that.
Yeah. Through mutual acquaintances, George met William Webber, Ronnie DeFeo's defence attorney. Webber proposed a collaboration. He wanted George and Kathy to merge their story with Ronnie DeFeo's in a book that would suggest devil worship or a malevolent force within the house had driven the killings. In the mid-1970s, the idea of demonic possession was gaining traction, especially in the wake of The Exorcist, which had swept the nation and even outperformed The Godfather. Webber believed Amityville could be the next cultural phenomenon. He began coaching the Lutzes, guiding them on what to say and how to dramatise the hauntings. But when the Lutzes held a press conference in Webber's office, it was what they didn't say that stood out. They never claimed to have seen, heard, or felt the ghosts of the DeFeo family. They didn't describe anything overly demonic, and instead their account was vague, ambiguous, leaving reporters with more questions than answers. Seems a bit odd that they did like a 180 turning on that, but
I just feel like they should have never have had a collaboration with the defence attorney for Butch. Like, what?
Yeah.
Why is this the collaboration that they felt was needed?
they decided not to do that in the end because 5% of the profits would go to Ronnie, and they didn't want to be involved in that, like giving him money for killing his family.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I mean, at least they had, at least George was like, even that's crossing a line for me. But thanks for the chest of drawers.
Oh, I've never slept so well in these beds. I can thank him every night for a good night's sleep.
God. After abandoning the house, the Lutzes moved permanently into Kathy's mother's home. George was no longer the carefree man he once was. He seemed fractured, haunted. To process the trauma, Kathy and George began recording daily audio tapes, documenting every unsettling detail. They hoped that by capturing their experiences, they wouldn't have to relive them repeatedly through retellings. Around 26 cassette tapes were made, though the recordings were disjointed, non-chronological, and at times influenced by alcohol. Desperate for validation, George invited parapsychologists to conduct seances in the house. He wanted proof, confirmation that spirits had indeed taken residence there, and that evil had truly lived within the walls.
It's like we've got all this trauma from this haunting, so should we just do a seance?
Yeah, we might as well. Lean into it. Come on, Kathy.
You can do it, Kathy. I believe in you.
Mary Pascarella was the lead psychic who investigated the house. She said it was the first time that she had ever encountered something that she could only describe as pure evil. She was quoted saying, "People said that this is a hoax, that it was done for money, but you never sign a contract with the devil." Whilst walking around the house, Mary became very ill and decided to lay down on one of the beds. As she began to say her prayers, such as the Our Father, she looked towards the doorway and saw a group of figures speaking the prayer backwards. And it was at this point that Mary brought the Warrens into the story, which I will hand over to you.
Do you know what? It's just like if I was there, everything would be screaming inside me like, Mary, don't go on the bed. That's the worst thing you could do. It's like if you're watching a horror movie and you shout at the TV like, don't go in there.
No, Mary, you can't.
Why would you lie down on the bed? So, the Warren investigation, I think we all know who Ed and Lorraine Warren are, but for anyone who doesn't, I've got some information for you.
Mm-hmm.
So, Ed and Lorraine Warren were American paranormal investigators and authors who were associated with several high-profile cases, and their investigations have inspired the Conjuring movie franchise. Ed was a self-taught demonologist, author and lecturer, and Lorraine was a clairvoyant and light trace medium. I don't know what a light trace medium is. I had a mental note to look it up later, but I never did. So,
I don't know.
Anyone know? Let me know.
Never heard of that one.
I forgot to do it. In 1952, the Warrens founded the New England Society for Psychic Research, which is the oldest ghost hunting group in New England. The pair claimed to have investigated over 10,000 cases during their career, and the most famous of the cases is the Amityville House. 10,000.
This was their springboard, really, wasn't it?
I would love to know how many of those 10,000 cases did they believe were genuine hauntings and what weren't. Because I wonder if all 10,000 they were like, yeah.
Yes to all.
Yeah, so I don't know that, but that would be something that would be interesting to me. Amityville is thought to many to be haunted by the ghost of the DeFeo family. However, the Warrens and a fellow paranormal investigator, Hans Holzer, believe that the house isn't actually haunted in the traditional sense, but possessed by evil spirits which claim are what possessed Butch to shoot his entire family. The property itself has a dark history, and the land was used as an enclosure where people were buried, and Ed and Lorraine say that inhumane, evil spirits revel in this kind of suffering and are able to infest graves. A previous owner to the DeFeos of the home had also allegedly dabbled in Satanism. The Warrens deemed that the Lutz family description of the hauntings actually was genuine because it was consistent with demonic possession, and noted that the Lutzes hadn't studied demonology, so would not have the knowledge to fake the story with such accuracy.
Although, it does make you think, like, this case is gaining traction. They're not going to be like, there's nothing here. It's actually fine.
Yeah. Definitely. That's facts, actually.
Yeah.
They're not going to come and be like, this is our bread and butter. Nothing happened.
There's actually nothing here. Because they know that someone else is going to come along and then be like, oh my god, there definitely is.
Yeah.
This is my ticket to stardom.
I wonder if... Because Ed and Lorraine Warren have passed now.
Yeah.
I wonder if they were alive when Butch made the statement that there was never a demon. It's me, I am the demon. I imagine them just watching the TV like, oh, for God's sake.
No one's going to listen to him anyway.
It's fine.
It's too late, the films are out.
We've already cashed in on the Conjuring franchise. The activity does seem to increase after the DeFeo family died and the Lutzes moved in. However, the Warrens believed one of Butch's many accounts of being possessed by demons during the murders was true. And again, one of his many accounts just so happens to be that one. That's the truth. The Warrens also were able to explain why none of the family woke up during the killings. So this is like the only thing that I find interesting, because I find it all interesting actually, but I just find this point quite... Apparently there's this paranormal phenomenon called phantomania, which is where evil spirits paralyse someone.
Right.
And that would make sense for why they didn't wake up. And if we're going to look at both sides of the coin with this, because you know us, we just love to be unbiased about things. We're like the most unbiased pod out there. Like,
true?
Facts only, objectivity is our bread and butter.
Clearly, we've been so unbiased so far.
So, I just think to look at both sides of the coin, to give the paranormal side a point, this is kind of the only explanation of how maybe no one heard the gunshot.
Yeah.
If there was some sort of paranormal thing going on during the killing, and why no one woke up and why no one moved.
Like they were
However,
in a bubble.
on the other side of the coin, there's a lot against the paranormal
That's
side.
things.
But to give that some weight, the Warrens were able to explain this, which I haven't really found anyone else explaining it, other than there was just multiple people, but it still doesn't tie it all up in a neat bow to what actually happened that night. Whereas this would make a bit more sense, like you said, like they're just in a bubble and the victims are paralysed all in the same position.
Yeah. To
help Butch on his spree. It might be that Butch decided to do it and the spirits were just like, we've got your back. Those are the other
Hells
people.
yeah.
Those are the other people involved.
Yeah.
20 days after the Lutzes had fled the house, Ed and Lorraine met with a priest called Father Picario and the Lutzes when they were called to investigate the house.
Mm-hmm.
The Lutzes were living with Kathy's mother at this point and had been too terrified to even go back and pack up their belongings in the Amityville house. I was surprised George didn't take that dresser with him to Kathy's mother.
It's not the dresser. Bring the beds. I can't sleep on this lumpy mattress.
Do you expect my children to sleep on the floor? The first time the Warrens went into the property, they did so with another investigator from Duke University, an anchorman from Channel 5 News, and president of the American Society of Psychic Research. So like you said, an anchorman from Channel 5 News is there. They're not going to be like, there's literally nothing to see here.
Yeah.
Their first day was terrifying. Lorraine received non-stop messages and visions clairvoyantly. Ed headed to the cellar, and despite usually not having clairvoyant visions, he began seeing shadows on the wall and thousands of pinpoints of light. The shadows attempted to push Ed to the ground. Ed used religious resistance and commanded the evil spirits to leave. He immediately got the sensation of something attempted to lift him off the ground, and it was then that he knew this house was truly evil. Lorraine was frightened before entering the house and had contacted some priest friends in advance to accompany her in spirit to the house. So I think she was just there in their prayers. I don't think they actually came in person. It just says accompany her in spirit. They were just thinking of her, yeah.
XOXO.
She took relics with her of Padre Pio, which she received in a letter from a total stranger earlier in the week. So I don't know why she did that. She went to the stairs to go to the second floor landing, probably appreciated those $50,000 portraits on her.
Oh my God.
She felt as if there was a huge force of rushing water against her, and the atmosphere around her was solidifying. On the second floor, Lorraine went into the sewing room. Marvin Scott, the Channel 5 news anchorman, told Lorraine, "I hope this is as close to hell as I ever get," as they went into Missy's room. Lorraine immediately clairvoyantly knew that this was Missy's room, and she knew without being told that it had the same furniture in that the DeFeo girls died in. But if she knew of the murders, she probably just saw the bloodstains and was like, they didn't change the furniture.
I mean,
these people are monsters.
Do you know what's funny as well? Sorry to interrupt you, but when that anchorman said about this is the closest to hell, I love how Lorraine must have been like, mental note for that, because I'm going to use that as a quote in one of my films, because that is
yeah, she does.
In there.
You're absolutely right.
She just pulls out a little voice thing. She's like, note to self.
Can you say that again? So Mr. Lutz had let his children sleep in the children's deathbeds. Just going to say that again because it's in my script, and why not just
hammer
that point home.
Yeah.
In the master bedroom, one wall was covered in mirrors. Lorraine sat on the bed where the DeFeo parents had been murdered. Only the mattress on the bed had been changed. The feelings of the room were that of absolute horror, and going from room to room, this feeling did not dissipate. One just seemed more horrible than the next. On the third floor, Lorraine clairvoyantly encountered Ronald DeFeo, and I'm guessing because of the time this would have happened, this would be Big Ronnie.
Yeah.
And apparently his spirit, she could tell, was so awful and so sinister that she felt there was absolutely nothing she could do to help eject this spirit from the house. And it kind of would make sense if it was the DeFeo family haunting the Lutzes, because you've literally moved into my home, stolen all my furniture.
Yeah. Yeah, you basically stepped right into our lives. She's like, oh, it's just a sense of dread. And they're like, yeah, I know. And she's like, no, dread that you're such a cheapskate. You've not actually replaced any of the furniture. There's no spirits here.
She comes out to the news anchorman like, I know the real demons. The real monsters are those letting their children sleep in these damn beds. Once she was downstairs, she was asked to do something she had never wanted to do after entering the house. She was asked to communicate with spirits, which, that is your job. That is literally your sole purpose of being
You're asking a bit much of me.
And to ask them what really happened. All investigators were in the room, and the investigator from Duke University actually passed out cold in fear. Two of the other investigators complained of heart palpitations and had to rest on the floor. Mary Pascarella, that's the one, the director of prominent psychic research group in New Haven, actually became so ill that she had to be taken outside, and from that moment forward she never entered the house again. Ed and Lorraine Warren left at 1 a.m, and both were so affected that they vowed to never go back, but they did. And I don't actually know if they found anything out during that session, if it was true, I don't know what they found out during that session, it didn't say. There's a very famous picture from one of the Warrens' investigations of the boy on the landing. I'm going to go into that. Good, okay, cool. Because that's said to be one of the DeFeo children, and I'll put it up on the screen. I'm not going to go into it any further, it's just something that I know about.
Yeah.
Ed and Lorraine were 2 of 9 paranormal investigators that investigated the home. The Warrens attended the house themselves and found some paranormal phenomena there. However, many that say that the claim the house is haunted is fraudulent. The hoax story is believed to be started by Dr. Stephen Kaplan, who was actually exposed several times in the fact he held no doctorate degree. So that's just fraudulent activity just going all around. He attended the home and was thrown off the property by George Lutz, and then George called the Warrens. So he came in and was like, "This house isn't haunted, bro." And George was like,
"Get the Warrens in.
Get out my home." This started a 20-year vendetta of Kaplan towards the Warrens. There's so much lore that goes along with Amityville. It's so weird. This episode's going to be so long, but I want to talk about it all because it is just so bizarre. Like, this guy was
all roads lead to Amity.
20 years had a grudge against the Warrens.
Damn.
Because he said that the story was a hoax, and a book by Jay Anson has some inconsistencies. So Roger Kaplan, Dr. Stephen Kaplan, who wasn't a doctor, so Mr. Stephen Kaplan, was like, "Your book's inconsistent, so I'm going to write my own book," which was then shown to have more inconsistencies than the Anson book. So not proving anything. And then his book, Kaplan's book, was called The Amityville Conspiracy, and a week before publishing, he actually died from a heart attack.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, but before he died, he had said that he's got investigative proof that the house isn't haunted, but the Warrens were like, "You've only attended a party at the Amityville house," which, what party was this? I want to know.
You only got to the grass.
And he never actually properly investigated. So the Warrens were like, "We'll give you $5,000 to show us that proof." And Stephen Kaplan was like, "Nah.
I don't have to prove anything to you."
Yeah, I'm not here to be bought.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just know that I have it, okay?
So he didn't give them to them. And actually, Jay Anson is said to be the only person who profited from Amityville.
He got so much out of it.
Yeah, whereas the Lutzes kind of got pennies compared to Jay Anson. So they were like, why would the Lutz fake it when they're not even being paid that much?
Yeah, he got millions. I think they made like 400,000, the Lutzes.
Yeah. He actually also had a heart attack when writing the last chapter of that book. Then recovered, and then he started writing another book called 666 about the Antichrist, and he had a second fatal heart attack.
Wow.
So apparently it's just left a string of people dying of heart attacks who get involved with it.
You know what's also interesting?
Did George Lutz die of a heart attack?
He had a heart attack too.
Maybe people in Amityville are just eating a lot of red meat.
Although he did, like, Amityville consumed him. Like, he was obsessed. It was his life. He lived and breathed it.
So when
he
they
sued
say,
so many people.
Yeah, when they say, "Oh, well, they didn't really make money off it, so why would it be fraudulent?" It's like, people try and do things and then don't make money all the time. They still go along with it. We're doing this podcast.
Yeah.
We don't make money off of it.
Hopefully no hearters either.
To do it. But do you know what I mean? It's like they could have tried to make money and failed.
Well, he tried to get, obviously he got the films, he tried to get other films done and more books.
And if he's suing people left,
he
right
sued
and centre,
so many people. Yeah, he was like constantly in battles with people. So, I mean, that's stressful. So that's probably why he had a heart attack. But yeah, it did consume him.
That's weird that he was suing so many people, because what are you suing them about?
He even sued Christopher, his stepson, which I'll go into why. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was the end bit of the Warrens thing. So basically, they said it was haunted. There's a photograph that depicts something. People felt ill while they were in there. However, there's reason, like Helen said, there's motive for it to be fraudulent. And Stephen Kaplan was just a bitter bitch who had a 20-year vendetta against them. And they said, the only reason you've got a vendetta against us is because George Lutz threw you off the property so you can get your hand in the honeypot.
Yeah, you were embarrassed.
And make it big off this. So you were like, because I'm not making any money off Amityville, no one can make money off Amityville. And went on this whole tirade that they were like, your book's just as inconsistent as the one that you said this is all a hoax of.
Yeah.
And he ended up perishing of a heart attack. So yeah, it's just so weird when you get into all of it, like all these little side quests,
squabbles.
All of this happened off the back of fucking Butch DeFeo.
Yeah.
Being a selfish ass, money grubbing motherfucker.
Oh my god.
In
And
my
he's
opinion,
just sat there
allegedly.
like, this is really affecting my parole. Guys.
George Lutz is like, I'll sue you too.
Shut your mouth. Okay, so I'm going to go into like the aftermath and why it might not be completely true.
Yeah.
The hauntings.
Allegedly, in our opinion.
Yeah.
For informational purposes only, George Lutz, don't sue us.
Well, he's
From
not
the
alive
grave.
anymore. Ghostly papers arrive at the door. So some of this is from Christopher Lutz's point of view, because he did speak out in one of the documentaries about how it affected the children of the story.
We already said though, didn't we? If they're ever in therapy, they'll be like, the therapist is just going to be like, I think I need to see you bi-weekly instead of just monthly.
Yeah. Christopher Lutz was around 10 years old when the Amityville horror film was released. One day, while with his babysitter, he basically went to the cinema. She took him to see a different film, but he made an excuse and said that he needed to go to the toilet so that he could leave and wander into the adjacent theatre, only to find himself watching a dramatised version of his own life, which imagine how scatty that would be. The audience's reactions stunned him, and it was in that moment that he realised the world had adopted this sensationalised version of events as truth. Though he was now living in a different state, his surname and unmistakable New York accent made it easy for other children to identify him. When they asked questions, he tried to explain what really happened, but his answers were often dismissed with, "That's not what happened in the movie," and he was frequently called a liar. Imagine the injustice.
I don't understand, because these days people would, like, that would never happen. Like, people would be like, the movies are people wouldn't just be like, well, that's not what happened. No one would say that.
I don't know, you say that, but people are weird, and it's like when
everyone's got different
people have
to
like
die
people have actors or actresses that they love, and they think they're the characters, and they think that they know them. So I can imagine that people would still do that.
Was it you I was talking to, where the guy from Lovely Bones, you know, George Harvey?
Yeah.
Whenever I see him on any... No.
Oh,
but
he
whenever
creeps you
I
out.
see him in any other movie, I'm like, even if it's a comedy, I'm like...
Pedo.
Maybe it wasn't you I was talking to about it.
No, it wasn't
to someone
me.
about it, and we were both like, we can't ever see him not as George Harvey.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
he was great in that.
He
Horrifying,
was great,
but he was great.
Unfortunately for him, it sort of tarred
His
him with that
backfired.
brush. Yeah.
Now he can only play those roles.
He's never ever going to get married, because they wouldn't have been able to watch The Lovely Bones and then sleep in bed at night with him.
Oh, no.
That's by the by.
Can you not touch me? You physically repulse me.
Oh, I'm making this episode even longer with these tangents, so I will let you carry on.
So, meanwhile, his parents, well, his one parent and stepdad, George and Kathy, embarked on a global tour to promote the film.
I wonder what... Just one more tangent, and I promise I'm
going to stop.
I wonder what their real dad thought of all this.
Yeah.
Can you imagine being the biological dad of these people? Or maybe they were estranged, or...
Well, I would say the original dad, but their dad was a bit of a dick as well, and he used to beat Kathy up. So I think he probably wasn't that. I've never heard anything about him, so I don't think he cared.
But in my head, it was like an amicable breakup, and he has to come and pick his children up from the Amityville house. And George is like, do you want to come in and just have a look around? And he just sees bullet holes, not plastered up, blood stains on furniture.
Kathy floating down the stairs. He's like, did you get a pet pig?
And his child just comes up to him like, they hid the bodies down in the cellar, Dad.
Oh my God. Can Jodie come? I don't know why they suddenly got really shit Cockney accents. Hello, Dad.
It didn't even even happen in the UK.
It's me, Missy.
He just walks into the house with the crucifix, like, come and get in the car, kids. Going through a swarm of flies, like, throughout this goddamn furniture, George.
With his spray, like.
Kathy's got my alimony check, she's got the money. What am I paying child support for?
George just sat on the floor meditating. So it's such a chaotic scene.
That should have been in the movie.
Just everything's falling apart and George just sat there like...
This is fine. Everything's fine.
In a peace.
We are the world.
As the slime is just coming down. Yeah.
Oh, I can't. I'm crying.
Oh, that...
Hello, Dad.
Do you want to come inside?
Do you want to have a cup of tea? He's like, why you got me? And why is there slime?
What's happening? George is like, it's not the fucking house, okay? They've always spoken like this. Oh, damn.
Yeah, maybe the real dad actually, like, even though he was a dick, he just saw all of this circus and just washed his hands.
Just thought,
I'm not touching any of this. And also, I'm never having them round to sleep at my house because the children are now haunted by association.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So George and Kathy are on their global tour.
Where were we?
Oh, promoting the film. During one interview, George was asked about that infamous photo of the ghostly boy peeking from the doorway, and he claimed to not know who the child was, but said that when Missy saw the image, she said it was a boy that she would often speak to. However, Christopher said, have you noticed what that boy is wearing? He is wearing a plaid shirt, and it matches, it's identical to what one of the photographers was wearing when the Warrens were there.
Oh, okay.
It is a picture of one of the photographers. It is a
But it looks like a young boy.
Yeah, it does, but when you see what the photographer looked like, he does have, like, I can see that it is him.
Been working in the factory since I was 12 years old.
Down the chimneys. So that is just a load of absolute BS.
Yeah.
And again, it just is like, why would the Warrens... Because it was during their investigation, why are they like, that's the ghost boy? And then George doubled down like, oh yeah, that's a ghost boy. We don't know who he is. Mate, it's a fucking photographer. Yeah, so...
But also, surely you would go down the route of being like, well, it's clearly one of the DeFeo children.
Yeah, but no, it's a photographer. And whilst on the world tour, Kathy and George dropped their children at a Catholic boarding school, which was called the Orphanage.
Was it even a boarding school?
Yeah, like, it's called the Orphanage, but it's a boarding school. We are coming back for you.
Lord.
And the other kids in the orphanage would tell them that their parents aren't coming back for them. And that they
Children
had been...
can be so cruel.
Yeah, well, they were like, we've been dumped here by our parents too. Like, they're not coming back.
It's like the dumping ground of Tracy.
Literally.
Teacher, Justine just being like, your family's never coming back for you.
Yeah, and Kathy said the decision was meant to shield the children from media attention, but you're on a world tour.
Promoting a movie.
Yeah.
That has the children featured in it.
I question whether that's true or not.
No, they just went on tour and couldn't be bothered to take
they're like, we got to put them somewhere.
They're
the
really
orphanage?
going to get in the way of the shots.
Yeah. Shh, don't need them moaning.
George's blood pressure is already high as it can be. He doesn't need to be raising children.
As public skepticism grew, Christopher became aware that his parents had recorded the cassette tapes detailing their experiences and handed them over to Jay Anson, who authored the best-selling book. But Christopher has never actually listened to the tapes himself, and he strongly disagreed with George's decision to embellish the story, believing the truth, however unsettling, was compelling enough without added fiction. So Christopher has said that stuff has happened in the house, but just not to the extent that the film portrays or that George portrays.
I think, obviously, for the film's sake, you've got to embellish, but for George's media tour, I think he's absolutely right. I think when you start to embellish and you start adding in claims that didn't happen, it then means everything didn't happen.
Yeah.
Whereas if you just tell the truth, it's harder to then dispute.
Yeah.
Because once you've been caught out in a lie or caught embellishing, you lose all credibility.
Mm-hmm. So the most damning claims come from William Webber, which we've spoken about, which was the defence attorney for Ronnie. Webber, although, I don't know, have you seen what he looks like? Like, have you heard him talk? He gives off the vibe of, like, smarmy car salesman, like a very greasy man. I don't know if he was just a bit butthurt, but he said that the entire haunting narrative was concocted over 3 bottles of wine with George and Kathy.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
But apparently George and Kathy didn't drink wine. But then the tapes, there were even some alcohol fueled, so they clearly did drink wine.
Well, it could be something else that they drank, but...
Well, apparently they didn't drink at all.
Oh, right.
I think the Warren... When I was looking into the Warren investigation, I didn't include that because I had also heard that William Webber had claimed that. But then someone, whether it was George and Kathy, the Warrens, or someone completely different, said, well, that's not true because George and Kathy didn't drink. And I thought, It's like when the Warrens were like, well, George and Kathy didn't know about demonology, so they couldn't have concocted this story. And it's like, sorry, could they not have read about it? Like, how do you know they've never studied it? How do you know they've never read one of your books?
And I haven't studied demonology, but I'm pretty sure I could come up with stuff that would figure. So, I've watched enough stuff that I could probably make something up. But he revealed that many of the supernatural elements were inspired by real but mundane details from the DeFeo crime scene. So he said the story of the flies came from the fact that William had mentioned there were flies around the body of the older sister in the DeFeo family.
Like I said, it was something to do with that.
Yeah, there was also greenish-black substance around many of the doorknobs, which was the result of fingerprint powders. But they used this to create a better supernatural story to sell the movie and the book. The green slime was actually spaghetti that had been splashed on the wall at a time when Mr. DeFeo supposedly hit his wife in the kitchen whilst she was carrying a plate of spaghetti. There were times when a neighbour's kitten would jump on Dawn's window, and that was believed to be the inspiration for Jodie, the pig-like entity that was seen in Missy's window. So at first I was like, he looks not credible, but then when he was saying stuff I was like, it kind of does make sense that it was based on some truth and then was spun into
really embellished.
And then there's the Red Room, which obviously was massively built up in the film to be basically the root of evil.
I'm pretty sure they said it was hell.
The gateway to hell.
The gateway to hell, yeah.
And it was just a little storage room. It was concrete walls with like flecked red paint that they would keep toys in. So it was really non-benevolent.
Yeah.
Yeah, and nothing going on there at all. Christopher also claimed that his parents sold the rights to depict their children in the film for $275 per head. So they properly just sold them out. And he viewed George not as the protector, but as a perpetrator and someone who exploited the family for profit. Christopher recalls that there was panelling in his bedroom. So his bedroom would have been Ronnie Jr.'s bedroom. And that behind the panelling was a space to hide things, which he believed Ronnie kept stuff in that he didn't want his parents to see.
He said he had a hidden gun cabinet, so I imagine
that's where it was.
It was. Probably
Yeah.
loads of drugs as well.
Well, when Christopher looked in it as a child, he found 2 bags of capsules, which at the time he obviously didn't know what they were, but later in life he questioned George about it because he gave them to George, and George said firstly he was surprised that he remembered, but he said they were Quaaludes, which are a hypnotic sedative.
I wonder if the capsules were full as well.
Oh yeah, they were.
Oh, because
like,
I'm thinking
still...
maybe like empty capsules where he's put it in the family's food. Because going back to the drugging theory, you just don't know. Yeah. I know the toxicology report came back, but I just don't know.
And after finding the Quaaludes, Christopher said that George's behaviour changed dramatically, and that he no longer went into work. He no longer did any personal care and became obsessed with sitting around the fire and his boathouse. So he heavily suggested that he was taking the drugs, basically.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. And what I get from this is that George was very mentally unstable. You'll see at the end and probably agree with that. So
I could have told you that after he kept the beds. Yeah. Any furniture,
yeah,
it would be all going out, in my opinion, if I had chosen to live in that house.
Rebuild the house, to be fair. I think we've just got to knock it down at that point.
At least
if we're getting it so cheap, knock it down, start again.
Yeah, at least redecorate.
Yeah. George eventually planned a sequel to the Amityville Horror, claiming it would be entirely non-fiction, and he used the profits from the first book and film to hire a writer and interview those involved originally. At one point, he claimed that entities from the Amityville house had followed them to their new home, and he even said that Missy saw Jodie on the wing of the plane. Which really reminded me of Bridesmaids.
Oh.
Claims of inconsistencies persisted, and one interviewer noted that when asking the children questions, they responded instantly without hesitation, as if it was rehearsed. Christopher said that they were threatened and beaten by George if they didn't behave once they got home. And George, and this is why I think that he was mentally ill, even believed that Christopher could make him ill with his thoughts. And he actually began physically abusing him for that reason, and blamed his deteriorating health on Christopher's psychic influence. Yeah. Friends of the family said George would hear voices, and that they would be driving somewhere and he would turn around whilst driving and yell at something in the back seat of the car.
That would be so unsettling.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say he does that thing like, I'll take us all out.
Oh my God. Yeah, or he would be sitting in a room and all of a sudden he'd just get up and start screaming at something. Yeah.
Okay.
Meanwhile, the Warrens used the Amityville case as a launchpad for their career, becoming consultants on numerous films and cementing their legacy in paranormal pop culture. In many of the most famous cases, including Amityville, the Warrens failed to provide concrete scientific evidence of paranormal activity, and their investigations often relied on personal testimonies, psychic impressions, and dramatic storytelling rather than physical proof. The Warrens were known for bringing film crews and journalists to their investigations, turning supposed hauntings into media spectacles. Their rise to fame coincided with a growing market for paranormal entertainment, leading many to question whether their motives were more commercial than investigative. Eventually, George and Kathy separated, and Kathy fell seriously ill. Christopher moved in with her to care for her, and after her death, he changed his surname to his mother's maiden name to distance himself from the Amityville legacy. When he learned George was planning a sequel in which Christopher would return 25 years later and kill him with telepathic powers, he took to the internet to stop it, which George responded to by suing him for trademark violation because he took up the domain of like amityville.co.uk or something, started his own website, and George sued him for that.
He was going to paint him out to be such a villain.
Yeah.
Oh, this guy's a piece of shit. We'll obviously go into final thoughts in a minute, but part of my final thoughts is there are so many arseholes around this house.
Yeah. Oh, well, because it attracted those kinds of people because they saw money signs and they flocked to it.
Honestly.
But yeah, today Christopher is quite active on social media and he actually speaks at quite a lot of paranormal conferences. He is a believer in the paranormal because of his experiences in Amityville. And he said that he's met so many people that have reached out and said how deeply affected they were by the film and by his own story. Yeah. So that's really the after effects. But yeah.
I hope that he gets a good paycheck from what he's doing now.
I don't think he really does, but I think it's just more a case of just protecting his name. Yeah, after George just went on this crusade of he just became so obsessed. And that is why he and Kathy eventually separated, because he wanted to add more and more fiction to it, and Kathy was like, I don't want to do that.
I'm done with this.
But he was just consumed by it.
Right, we'll go into final thoughts. I was going to talk about something else Warren related, but we're coming up to 2 hours on this episode, so I think we're good to just go into final thoughts and sort of close off the episode. I've really enjoyed looking into the Amityville Horror House, and I have to say I really do like the Conjuring franchise as horror movie entertainment. So I would quite like to do another true story of one of those films.
Like Annabelle.
Or the Enfield Poltergeist. Mm-hmm. That's a UK one. So if anyone would like to see that, obviously comment down below and we'll just go into our final thoughts about Amityville. Like I said, I think there's just a lot of dicks around the case.
There definitely is. And I don't know, I do question how legit the Warrens are.
There's a lot of people that question them and their character. And the fact that they bring news and media and make it a spectacle to their investigations, I just think they can't then, like you said, they can't just not put on a show at that point. Yeah. So they're probably not the most reliable people. The Amityville house itself, I believe in, obviously everyone knows who have watched our podcast, and if you're new here, I'll just let you know, we do believe in the paranormal. Mm-hmm. We believe, or like sometimes I just don't know. So I wouldn't rule it out and say I definitely don't believe. I just don't know. Something I definitely do believe in is dark energy.
This is what I was going to say. It feels like it's more a case of a lot of mental illness.
Abuse.
Yeah, than something being there. And it's just manifested in there's something there. And I think we as humans like to be able to pinpoint it to something else. Like it can't be someone can't be that evil to kill their whole family. There must be something that drove them to do it. But then when
you actually look at the evidence, it seems like he had perfect means, motive, and opportunity.
And he seemed quite coherent to be able to methodically do all of that.
He planned it. He covered up the evidence. He went and did mitigating measures of getting caught. He was in his right state of mind. Yeah. And I think he probably got off easy with calling it second degree, because arguably I think he probably was planning it for a while. Yeah. Whether it was heat of the moment or not, I think, it is a really evil act, and I think that's left residual negative energy, and probably having all the furniture that was there, not redecorating. I think that could easily manifest into what went on. And then, even George possibly, allegedly maybe going down the route of drug use. It's like perpetuating that cycle that's already happened in that house, becoming abusive to the children and Kathy and all of that. It's like perpetuating that cycle that the DeFeos had.
Yeah, it's almost like the house itself isn't evil, but it's attracted evil to it.
Yeah, and then just people feed off that energy, and unfortunately the Lutzes were given a platform to make a movie, and to be fair, it's a good movie.
But, and then like when I was looking into this, the sequel of it is, do you know what it's about?
No.
It's horrible. Like, the fact that that was allowed to happen, and this is the thing, I felt like the whole story just really takes a big old dump on the actual murders and how horrendous that was, because the sequel is about Ronnie Jr. and how he's basically sort of possessed but is incestuous to his sisters. But it's because he's possessed, and he starts, like, his face is all deformed and everything. You know, you think, how has that been able to get put into a film? Imagine.
In my research, I didn't find any of that, and the murders are so horrific. Why do we need to add an incestuous...
How insulting.
...element to it? Because you don't.
That is just a big FU to, like, everything that happened, to, like, the trauma that family and their living relatives have had to go through. And then to see that as well, like, it hasn't already been sensationalised and they're now, like, some spirits that are haunting the house. They've actually made a mockery of the murders themselves. Like,
it's quite an injustice, because I'm someone who is quite interested in true crime. I watch a lot of it, and part of the reason is that I think the victims have a story that deserve to be told.
Yeah.
And I saw this meme that was like, imagine being an episode on Forensic Files and someone skips your murder because it's boring. Like,
oh my God.
I saw that, and that is kind of my point on it. Like, you know, every victim has a story that's got to be told. And if I was murdered, I'd want people to know the thing I went through.
Yeah.
Not everyone has that opinion, but that is my opinion. And I just think that is an absolute insult to the story they went through, because what they went through is traumatizing and horrific enough that it doesn't need sensationalizing. It doesn't need anything added to it.
I just thought that was terrible. But yeah, I think.
And was that George Lutz?
No, he said the story he was like, this is an example of it being taken out of your hands, and I had no say in it.
Because I was going to say that makes it even worse if George Lutz was the one in charge of that story, because who the fuck are you?
Yeah.
Sorry, I shouldn't, I've sworn a lot this episode and I shouldn't, but who are you?
I think in the end they had to even say, oh, it's not related to it. But, you know, you're like, well, it clearly is. It clearly is related to the story, because this is the premise of the story, and you've just added, I don't even know why you've added it, but you've just added in incest. And
thinking about it as well, even the Warrens saying, because you've got to think, were they just innocently led by misguided thoughts that they thought were premonitions, or were they purposely sensationalising a story that they did not know for fact was true? Because even Butch himself has said, I might have heard voices, I might not have done.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there was a demon. No, there's no demon. I am the demon. Yeah, you are the demon.
Well, I just think...
Let's not try and mitigate your actions by saying the house drove you to it.
Yeah, let's not blame it other things. Take accountability.
A good one for us to cover, actually, would be The Devil Made Me Do It.
Yeah.
Because he actually got the Warrens involved, and I believe he only got 5 years.
That was the first case that...
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you look at the information surrounding the murder, I won't go into it now, because that would be a whole other hour. It's just not accurate what they portrayed. So I think definitely the Warrens have their name in quite a few controversial cases, and this is why people have issue with them.
And, you know, if that is your passion, is to help these troubled families, you wouldn't be thinking, oh, well, let's make sure we're bringing the news crews and stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
let's
you'd
make
just
sure
be,
to get them off a murder.
Let's just actually help this family. Let's just see what's going on here and not try and profit from it. Because this is what we enjoy doing. this is us giving back, not this is our paycheck and now we've made so many films.
And can you imagine the one that did actually go to court and they were the experts in saying this was done because of demonic possession? Imagine the news stories around that, how far and wide that would have spread.
Yeah.
They must have been like, all we need to do is get on the stand and say that. Even if the jury don't take it, which they probably won't, this is going to make headlines and put our name further out there.
Especially being the first case that gets that verdict.
But then you think morally, imagine the murder wasn't demonic possession, which there are arguments for, and then
you've prevented justice.
Let someone get off when someone's died.
Yeah. So I don't know if to an extent they do believe in it and you must do for it to be your life. But
that's the thing. Are they consciously making these decisions and just being like, well, it doesn't matter because we're going to profit on it, and no one can prove us otherwise?
Yeah.
Because no one can prove.
It's all just them saying they've seen stuff, which you can't say they haven't, but you can't say they have.
Yeah. So it's not. So are they consciously knowing that and being like, well, we'll just keep pushing it forward? Or are they...
There's a line?
Genuinely believing it and believing their own hype?
I think a little bit of both, maybe.
Possibly.
But let us know what you think.
Let us know what you think. This has been a long enough episode, so we'll leave it there. Basically, our thoughts are all over the place, probably. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and like I said, if you want us to cover anything more like this in the future, let us know down below, because that would be quite interesting.
Yeah, and please give us a little like and subscribe, because it makes our day.
If you wouldn't mind, if you could be so kind.
Thank you kindly. And thanks for listening, as always.
See you later.
Bye.